panel now, which is, as it's headlined, the panel A, but the balancing act. How can Middle East energy companies deliver on net zero ambitions while helping safeguard the global energy security? That ultimately has been the sort of challenging question of the last year, where we went from a world that was very focused on energy transition before the conflict in Europe, and then energy security surged to the forefront of everybody's consideration. And since then, it's been, how do we get these two in balance? Well, we're delighted to have a great panel this afternoon to help us address that. And I'd invite each of them to turn on their camera and microphone as introduced. His Excellency, Engineer Yusuf Al Ali, the Chief Executive Officer of Etihad Water and Electricity. Mr. Ibrahim El Zubi, Senior Vice President, Sustainability and Climate at ADNOC. Welcome, and please turn on your camera. Zafar Samadov, Program Officer, Partnerships for IRENA. And Mira Al-Jalaf, Co-Chair, COP28 Student Energy Summit. And of course, our host from Microsoft, Mohammed Hassan, Industry Director and Energy and Sustainability, Middle East, Africa, and Turkey for Microsoft. Please, all gentlemen and ladies, turn on your cameras and your microphone. Welcome to all of you. As we'll give each of you the opportunity in which to give your opening thoughts in answer to the question. There's no doubt global disruptions in energy markets, particularly with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, coming out of what was already a world in crisis with COVID-19, has led to a resurgence of what is now sort of generally referenced to as the energy trilemma, the balancing act between energy security, supply, decarbonization, which of course is a lot of what Sharif outlined in his presentation. How do we withdraw carbon collectively, personally, and affordability of our energy sources, where more than 1 billion people in the world today still do not have access to electricity, and 2 more billion have limited access to affordable electricity. These are serious challenges. Let's kick off with our host, Mohammed Hassan, of this session, as introduced, Industry Director for Energy and Sustainability for Microsoft in the MEA, Africa and Turkey region. Mohammed, your opening thoughts.
Thank you very much, Sean. First, I would like to welcome His Excellency, Engineer Yusuf, Zafar, Mira, and Mr. Ibrahim for joining this panel today, and all the attendees, of course. Building on what Sharif said and moving from there to specifically the energy industry, which is going through a significant transformation, and the world aims to transition to a low carbon economy to mitigate the impacts of the climate change. Middle East energy companies have traditionally been heavily reliant on oil and gas production. But nowadays, they are also feeling the pressure to reduce their carbon footprint and contribute to the global net zero goals. However, the Middle East energy companies also have the responsibility to ensure the energy security for the region and the world, given their significant role and contribution in the global energy supply chain. To achieve their net zero ambitions as an energy producer or energy operator, while safeguarding the global energy security, they must adopt a comprehensive and balanced approach from my point of view. This will involve investing in renewable energy sources, such as solar, such as green hydrogen, as well as exploring emerging technologies like carbon capture and storage. At the same time, it will be crucial to maintain the reliability and affordability of the energy supplies. As you rightly mentioned, more than 1 billion people don't have access to electricity. So maintaining affordability of energy supplies to meet the growing demand of energy in the region and beyond the region as well. They also must collaborate with international organizations, governments, and other industry players to share knowledge, resources, exchange best practices, and develop innovative solutions that can help reduce the carbon emissions while ensuring the energy security. This collaboration will definitely help to build sustainable energy future that meets the needs of both the region and the world. And from there, I'll give it back to you, Sean, to start our discussion with our guests.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. I'd like to kick off and welcome His Excellency Engineer Yusuf Al Ali, as described, CEO of Etihad Water and Electricity. And of course, His Excellency has, through his career, I won't say how long it is, but we're all getting on. He certainly was a founder, a leader of Masdar, which of course was in essence nearly the ground zero of the UAE's journey to the energy transition, and has spent many years as a leader there with Sultan Al Jaber, and then into the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, and now CEO of Etihad Water and Electricity. Your opening thoughts, Your Excellency. How can the Middle East, how can the UAE energy companies deliver on net zero ambitions?
Thank you, Sean. Let me first give an introduction about Etihad Water and Electricity.
Please.
We are previously called the Federal Water and Electricity Company, and we serve almost entirely 4 emirates of the UAE and partially the Emirate of Sharjah. So we serve huge number of customers within the UAE, and we are still within the UAE one of the, let's say, one of the stakeholders in the energy sector, and we will work in the implementation of the UAE plans. When it comes to the UAE and sustainability and reduction of carbon footprint, this is a journey that we started almost from the year 2007 with the establishment of Masdar. And we were the first, or probably for sure the first country in this region that was able to set targets for the renewable energy. We remember in 2007, 2008, the first renewable energy target in this part of the world, which was the 7% target of Abu Dhabi. Then we had a target of 15% within the Emirate renewable energy target in Dubai. Then on a nationwide, we had the 24% clean energy target for the UAE. We were able to implement on these targets as per the plan. So UAE today contains the biggest capacities of renewable energy, mainly solar, CSP or PV, and we also have the nuclear program that produce also contribute heavily to our plan toward reduction of carbon footprint. On top of that, the UAE took a strategic decision to target net zero by the year net zero. This really is a more difficult and diverse target. The focus before was only on the electricity side. Now we have more holistic target that will need to cover all the different sectors. It's not only the energy. We have buildings efficiency that we need to improve. We have industries, we have agriculture, we have transportation. So we have different pillars and different working groups that are working on their plans. I'll focus here on the electricity side. So as I mentioned before, we implemented a successful renewable energy and nuclear energy program that today put us in probably one of the countries that have a minimum carbon footprint when it comes to electricity. The carbon footprint that we enjoy today is below the most efficient combined cycle plant. On top of that, in the fall, once we got the directives from the leadership to achieve net zero, we started doing more modeling to see what kind of technologies we will require for the electricity sector, electricity and water, to achieve that target. And based on the initial results, we think if we do it in the right way, we think achieving net zero for the electricity sector, electricity and water sector, could be the most economical scenario in the year 2050.
Is that also,
provided
Your Excellency, is that for the electricity and water section also 2050 the target date, or do you have an earlier target date?
I'm just I'm not clear. The announced target is the year 2050.
Okay,
So
Hala.
this is a target, the efforts, nationwide efforts led by the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment and the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. So based on what we have so far, we think achieving net zero can be the base case scenario, provided that we are able to provide that technologies develop in the right manner that is expected and forecasted, and us being able to put the right policies, procedures, and to implement on that plan. So I think UAE in the year 2050 will be heading toward the net zero. We have a good base in the UAE. We already have a nuclear program, which means any expansion in the nuclear program will be cost effective. And we already started our renewable energy program that is already economical and technically visible for us.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you for that comprehensive overview and the introduction, of course, to Etihad Water and Electricity. I think it is important that everybody understands the refocus there and its priorities. The rubber meets the road inevitably with the biggest players, and that is ADNOC. Ibrahim El Zubi, Senior Vice President, Sustainability and Climate, is ultimately the Chief Sustainability Officer of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC. Ibrahim, your opening thoughts and the commitment to this challenge, if you like. You are the Middle East energy company on the pathway towards net zero. Your ambitions, your achievements are significant for all of us. Your opening thoughts. You're on mute, perhaps, Ibrahim?
Yes, I am. So thank you, Sean, colleagues, Your Excellency. But I think, Sean, the biggest player will be Mira, the youth. So I'm so excited to listen to her. So I'll do my best to give her, reduce my intro, and Mira can for sure utilize my extra time. But if we think, you talked about the trilemma and, of course, reducing emissions to address climate change, which we all believe it's happening, while meeting the world's energy needs remains the biggest single challenge of this century. So that's a fact. But as the world transitions to net zero energy future, it will require collective and inclusive action and major technological breakthroughs. So there is an importance on the how to achieve the net zero future and start talking about the transition and what kind of technological breakthroughs we need to invest and ensure it's there in place. So at ADNOC, we remain focused on delivering the reliable and affordable and low carbon energy, investing for the long term, as well as our efforts to further reduce emissions, gain momentum. Hence, we are accelerating our decarbonization journey and are on target to reduce our carbon intensity by 25% by 2030, driving towards, of course, our net zero by 2050 ambition as part of the UAE national commitment. So to do that, so the target is there, and as most of us, if not everyone here, but how we will do that. So we recently announced a $15 billion investment for landmark decarbonization projects, including carbon capture, electrification, CO2 absorption, and enhanced investments in hydrogen and renewables. So this is how we balance things, and we look at the now and the future. So as a progressive energy business, we are especially, I think, qualified to effectively contribute to the overall net zero solutions. And this is exactly what we look at it when it comes to, say, collective and inclusive action.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for your opening comments. As you said, Nerli, you did the whole introduction for me, but I will go one step further and welcome Mira Al-Jalaf, co-chair of COP28 Student Energy Summit. Of course, she is a fourth-year mechanical engineering student at NYU Abu Dhabi, where they do amazing work and have a whole program of commitment towards sustainability, and will host a very significant event later this year with students from all over the world. Mira, your thoughts and guidance and requests perhaps of how Middle East energy companies deliver net zero as they balance energy transition and energy security.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be part of this panel, and thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the introduction, and Sean as well. As Sean mentioned, I'm a student at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and I'm the co-chair of the Student Energy Summit, which is the largest youth-led energy summit that's going to be happening here in Abu Dhabi in November 2023. And we are really excited for the summit to happen at the same time as COP28, and for us to engage youth at COP28. Going back to your question, Sean, in regards to how energy companies can really have a good energy transition. So I think one of the basis is to really have youth engagement, and also really engagement of the community and transformations through local communities. So typically, now we can see a lot of energy industries and companies have really started having investments and billion-dollar investments in renewable energies and other technologies and research and development. However, at the same time, I think the local communities have really a great impact, and education of local communities will really benefit, because local communities are the youth and they are the future of this world. So this is what we're working on the Student Energy Summit, is really to engage youth and provide them with the means to help mitigate climate action, and also transitions more smoothly, because the youth, with the education provided to them by energy sector companies, will be able to have more have a larger incentive to really be part of this energy transition and be part of the impact in climate change and reaching the net zero goals.
Thank you for your opening comments. Let's welcome our final speaker, Safar Samadov, Program Officer Partnerships at the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA as the acronym is known, which is rather an exciting sort of symbol in ways, and also a very important organization. But in the context of the journey, we started with His Excellency Yusuf El Ali, who was the part of the founding leadership of Masdar, and of course IRENA, international organization, now hosted in the UAE, hosted in Abu Dhabi, as a real early signal and symbol to the country's commitment to renewables. And of course, now Masdar, one of the biggest owners and leaders of renewable energy projects around the world, the largest wind power operator in the United Kingdom, for example. So opening thoughts, please, from Mr. Zafar.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this high-level panel. And I see people and friends here, so it's really good to have this discussion among us. Perhaps I can give you a reflection coming from the 13th IRENA Assembly, which actually brought together a huge constituency, 100.
Which just took place in January, right?
Yes, it was right in January. So it was first after the COVID. We've met in person, having 1,500 delegates and 100 ministers coming to assembly. And it was great to see all people and discuss, especially looking towards the COP. What the reflection was coming from the assembly, that the global stocktake on climate action will take place and offer really a point of reflection, where the countries will first time assess their progress of the Paris Agreement. And the assembly message was that a short-term action must be given top priority now to urgently accelerate the energy transition in the coming years, in the course to correct 1.5-degree pathway to 2050. And this message was sent by energy leaders from all our constituency. We also had a youth forum there, and young generation actually demanded strong actions and they want to be involved. All these parties come together, made conclusions that the world now is not on the track to reach climate development goals. And we're even regressing in some instances. So we need to take actions and they cannot be delayed. But we already have available solutions. So we really need to work on implementation and actions on the ground. We also know that every country is different and each country must find a way to balance their national priorities with short-term and long-term goals to accelerate both nationally driven actions. So in a way, the global stocktake is really important process. And what would be equally important is to find a common agreement on the global priorities during COP28 and also after. So I want to conclude that perhaps expectation of the industry and the governments going to COP28 will call into significantly advance the international cooperation that will play a very important role to unite all countries and provide an opportunity to accelerate deployment of technologies and secure needed financing to achieve our goals. So in this context, IRENA works with all the members. We really engage it with all constituencies, particularly in this region, Middle East and Africa, that we discussed today. And this region is really advancing and really making bold investment in the diversification plans and introducing new policies, new targets, and realizing projects on the ground. So we are happy to work together and look forward to continue this journey this year, COP28 and beyond. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Zafar. Just to follow up with you, Zafar, on that, the 13th Assembly of the IRENA in Abu Dhabi in January, first in person since COVID, but also I would say the first since energy security accelerated itself to the front of the queue, to the front headline of every newspaper in the world. How did the Assembly address that balance? Because most countries in attendance would have accelerated and elevated energy security to a very high level of priority. How do they balance? What was the tone regarding the coexistence, energy security, energy transition? Does one get priority over the other? How was that addressed?
Well, in fact, there is no one priority over the other. What the current situation that we went through the last year and is continuing this a kind of energy crisis on the energy security, actually the renewables which are promoted by the agency in our constituency could play a very important role to eliminate this problem of energy security, because renewables, they are abundant, they are locally available in every country. So in this way, if we heavily invest in the renewables and have projects on the ground, by doing this, we advance our action on the climate change. At the same time, we eliminate the problem of energy security. So this is opportunity perhaps for the countries to really reassess the situation and accelerate deployment of renewables, which actually happen in many regions around the world, that after the crisis, some of the constituency adopted more bold plans and investment packages to drive the projects on the ground.
Your Excellency, I'd like to bring that question to you. Obviously, Zafar is telling us about the collective of 100+ countries at the Assembly. UAE has announced very recently the plans to accelerate the target of 5 million barrels of oil production a day from 2030 to 2027. And a lot of that driven by the need in the world for energy security, as the new capacity just isn't coming elsewhere. And the Gulf is going to be called upon to as more than it has ever been before in the coming years. But how does the government, the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, balance that? I mean, 5 million accelerated, brought forward 3 years, but yet at the same token, meet your net zero targets that haven't changed as a result. But how do those two things coexist?
Sean, I think I will just talk in general about how the energy market evolves or how energy transition is happening. It's very important that we manage that transition in a wise way. So today, gas, natural gas, in some cases, refined products can be considered as a transitional fuel toward net zero. So ADNOC made huge efforts to reduce the carbon footprint, and they were probably the first company or the first producer in the world who announced the barrel with the lowest carbon footprint. So thinking about the transition, it's very important that we provide the cleanest type of fuel available. And today, the cleanest type of fuel is a fuel that produces with the lowest carbon intensity and natural gas. If we don't manage the transition carefully and the prices start shooting up, then the alternatives can be more damaging. Alternatives can be more polluting. Alternatives can be coal and other sources of energy that can cause more pollution. So in order to have a sustainable transformation, we need to be patient and we need to keep the development of fuel sources that are less emitting. So I see it as a transition, and we need to wisely manage this transition to reach the end target.
Ibrahim, that's very much kind of the challenge to ADNOC, of course, and to all energy producers, and to all industry, one might say, to decarbonize quicker, to future-proof sooner, and create the energy system of the future today, not tomorrow. How does, I mean, on one side, ADNOC expand its capacity targets, but at the same token, achieve a quicker decarbonization? What are the tools? Where do you see those solutions to support that?
Thank you very much, and I'm glad we started, and I really thank His Excellency of throwing a great substance for the discussion on net zero in general, which is the how. So we all agree it is a road to net zero. And as a national oil company of Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates, in addition to our socio-economic responsibility and role, but we need to future-proof us as well the economy of our country. So in a scenario of a declining global oil and gas investments and a continued demand for reliable and affordable energy, and of course, given their outsized role in the global production, the NOCs have important implications for meeting future supply, climate outcomes, as well as the economic competitiveness for our nations. While at ADNOC, we are committed to leveraging our scale, capabilities, and opportunities to help build a net zero future. We have to face the fact that if we need to go to net zero, even to transition to renewables, we need the industry to produce and be a platform for the transition and for the renewables. So the industry should be there to help on the transitioning. But ensuring that while doing that, we need to ensure the long-term economic competitiveness and prosperity of the UAE, which is the role of NOCs and a national oil company. So this is in the DNA of an NOC like an ADNOC. But also, we also operate within a nation that has an amazing, great track record on climate change, climate action, advancing net zero future, and also our founding father, late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan. He's the one who started the movement, the environmental movement, since the 70s. So it's not a new thing for us. It's built in our DNA as a nation, which also shadowing onto us as an ADNOC. So if you talk about who's the first Gulf nation to sign and ratify Paris Agreement, was the UAE. And again, that reflects on us as a responsibility. Our 2015 NDCs, the National Determined Contribution, made us the first country in the region to commit on an economy-wide reduction in emissions by 2030. And also this reflects on the NOC. So it's part of the whole cohesion of the country. So when we launched our national net zero by 2050 pathways as UAE, ADNOC was part of that. We ensured that, and that was last year. We ensured that we are talking to the different stakeholders within the UAE, ensuring social and economic and environmental prosperities of the UAE, and that's important. Now,
when just to interject there, obviously there's advancing many pathways. One of them you referenced, they're moving from, as most companies have as their North Star, profit has always been the case. Now the idea of moving that to a wider lens of people, planet, and profit, so the three have to coexist as one makes this transition. Where is the key sort of the kind of key point within that move from just profit to people, planet, and profit? Where does the rubber meet the road on that pathway?
I can summarize it in future proofing, and future proofing does not start today. Future proofing starts way back, and that's why when ADNOC, or even as a nation, we started investment in renewable energy space over 16 years ago, way before COP or Paris, COP28 or Paris Agreement. So today, as we speak today, when we say future proofing, we operate 3 of the largest and lowest cost solar plants in the world here in the UAE. We talked about Masdar and the capacity of 15 gigawatt. And ADNOC is one of the investors and shareholders of Masdar, and that's the diversification of energy, as well as when we think about as an oil and gas company, we looked at our own carbon footprint, and where we can look at profit and environment, where we managed to obtain 100% of our grid-fed electricity from nuclear and solar powered energy. Also, the second point, other than future-proof investment, we are finalizing a 3.8 billion project linking solar and nuclear power to ADNOC offshore, not only to the onshore. So that's investment, future-proofing, reducing cost, as well as we will achieve their 50% reduction in CO2 emissions. And this is where commercial viability, it's important for I believe that in any sustainability initiative that you should do. So again, back to the $15 billion that we allocated to invest, which is around 12, if you look at pounds, around 12.6 billion British pounds in landmark projects. So we need to further electrify and decarbonize our operations, and not only by setting targets, but also investment and making action on the ground. The increasing of removing the pollution in the air itself. So when we look at CCUS, again, I like to use, when I say technological breakthroughs, in the sustainability world,
carbon capture, utilization, sequestration,
and storage. Thank you very much. We need to get used, Sean, to such new technological innovations as we are getting used with ChatGPT. So CCUS programs are vital to achieve our net zero and our climate action targets, and we're increasing it to achieve by 2030 around 6-fold, with a current capacity of 800,000 tons of CO2 per year. Nature-based solutions, by the way, carbon sinks, mangroves. As a UAE, we're committed to 100 million mangroves. 10 million of them will be our responsibility as ADNOC.
There's a long list of efforts to decarbonize, to ultimately make the lowest carbon barrel. And Mira, in essence, in the triple P, if you like, you are nearly an embodiment of the people part, in essence, because NYU Abu Dhabi, few thousand incredible students, a lot of them nationals, but also from all over the world, coming to Abu Dhabi to be educated. Your thoughts on whether this is happening fast enough? I mean, Sharif in his opening comments made it clear. He put the data right in our face. This is an urgent situation. Are the energy companies in the region doing this quick enough? Are they demonstrating a commitment to acceleration to the transition? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that they are accelerating in the energy transition, especially due to the crisis that recently happened and also after COVID-19. I think a lot of energy sector companies have realized that we should accelerate their energy transition. And also, like COP28 is happening here in the UAE, and with the Year of Sustainability, I think a lot of local companies have realized the importance of transitioning to a more clean and reliable energy sources. And also, at the same time, national oil companies, as Mr. Ibrahim mentioned, have really focused on decarbonizing their own oil plants and like oil refineries. So I think that there is a lot of awareness in that field. And at the same time, the youth has really put a lot of impact and pressure, I guess, on the older generation to really focus on the energy transition, because that's what we want. That's what the youth want, is to have a more cleaner environment and have more focus on renewables rather than just like the oil and gas industry. And that's really what's happening. And we can see that happening in the UAE with the investment and a lot of like renewable energies, with the solar plants that are happening and the nuclear plants that are happening. And also in the UAE, like there are investments that are happening abroad. Like recently, Mubadala invested in hydrogen energy. So like, I think that the transition is happening at the rate that it's supposed to happen. However, like there's still worries about not meeting the 1.5 degrees. But I think like with the acceleration, hopefully we will be able to reach that and every country can reach their like net zero goals.
Zafar, you started off your comments about IRENA, the start of the year 2023 meeting in Abu Dhabi in January. At the end of the year, COP28 will be in the UAE, in Dubai, at the old former Expo site. The year of action, the year of acceleration, you yourself are a key leader within IRENA where it comes to partnerships. Where do you think there is the partnerships? We're going to see, in essence, a lot of the national energy companies and international energy companies sitting at the table for the first time at COP. What sort of opportunity do you think that presents for making this an impactful COP, for getting anywhere close to the $125 trillion that are required to get to net zero by 2050?
Yes, this is important really time for the entire world and for the region. So this is really an opportunity is to change our path. And what is Ibrahim said, to future-proof our economies, our way of life, and we can chat to the long-term path of sustainable economic growth for the benefits, for the future generation of our children and our future as a clean planet. So this a fantastic period of revolution, of decarbonization is challenging, but it also provides a huge opportunity for the next great transformation across different sectors. For this one, IRENA is putting out different partnership frameworks. One of them is very specific. IRENA has recently launched, in close collaboration with industry, Alliance for Industry Decarbonization. So I take this opportunity to invite all companies in the call to join the alliance, to have a joint efforts to work together. So it's now attended by a great number of companies from around the world. They define the key pillars, 3 of them on technology. They identified the renewables, green hydrogen, carbon capture storage as the 3 key technologies to address and work together in partnership, share knowledge, best practices. A lot of companies have a pilot projects ongoing, and this is a path to accelerate development of technology. It's important also to address energy efficiency and the heat optimization. We have very heavy industries which will require changing the way they operate and be more efficient. And finally, 2 another important key pillars of work of the Alliance is human capital and finance. And human capital is extremely important because we are in an era when we're moving from the oil and gas industry to the cleaner industries. And we have great people, great talents. And what is needed is to provide them opportunity to gain new skill, new experiences, new jobs, so they can move the energy transition. And finally, the finance is extremely important. I think it will be extensively discussed at the COP. So our analysis show that over the years, the financial resources accelerated into energy transition, but we are not doing enough. And we are also not equally distributing financial resources around the world. So again, the COP28 will be an opportunity to discuss and to address that we have just energy transition and nobody left behind.
Well, it's certainly with bringing all of the major international energy companies to the table who have massive resources. We saw the profitability of the energy, oil and gas sector last year in particular. There's a lot of money available to be deployed if you're part of the solution. And the exciting thing is that the COP28 leadership has clearly indicated to bring that part of solution to the table. And with it, of course, it's project management power and it's capital power. Mohammed Hassan, our host of this session, Industry Director, Energy and Sustainability for Middle East, Africa and Turkey, Microsoft. Mohammed, you get the closing comment. Wrap us up. You get 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Sean, and everyone for the insightful discussion. I learned a lot, and I would like to take the key takeaways of this discussion and feed it back into the ecosystem, right? It's obvious that the global energy security is with reducing emissions is a challenging balancing act. However, we can already see that the energy companies, especially in the Middle East, are taking a lot of strategies and steps into ensuring to lower their emissions while keeping the security of their energy supply. As mentioned, embracing digitalization is a key strategy to automate the process. There is no sustainability without digital transformation. As Sharif rightly mentioned, you cannot reduce or track what you cannot measure. I heard also a discussion about diversifying the energy mix from new energy resources, renewables, energy storage like green hydrogen, new technologies like the carbon capture, as mentioned by Mr. Ibrahim, and who better can utilize carbon capture and storage than the energy companies? They have been working with the reservoirs underground, injecting gas and taking the oil and gas out. And nobody's better positioned to invest in this sector by building the capital projects and the capex required for the carbon capture and the storage dealing with the reservoir as well. I'm very happy with Mira being on board because that's the cooperation we need. International collaboration between the academia, technology companies, energy companies, and the industry, cross-border collaboration to share the best practice and knowledge to make the transition successful. With that, I'll wrap it up and give it back to you, Sean, for the closing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to have had the opportunity to curate this panel, and I thank you for your participation and contribution. And we will capture a lot of the most salient ideas shared in the session and put it in the post report so that everybody can have a chance to review it afterwards. I'd like to thank His Excellency Engineer Yusuf Al Ali, Ibrahim Al Zubi, Zafar Zamadov, and Mira Al Jalaf for your contribution and insights today.